Hey everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the sports section with me, your host, Neil Rosen. I basically talk about sports. More specifically, I talk about the Premier League. So let's talk about the crisis at Chelsea FC. Today is January 15. Chelsea are currently sitting 10th in the Premier League. They lost 7 matches, drew 4 games, and won 8. They conceded 21 goals and scored 22. They currently sit on 28 points. So a crisis is putting it lightly, especially after all these transfers. Now we're going to talk about a lot of stuff in this video, and this is coming from someone that has been a fan of Chelsea for a long time. And since I'm basically talking to myself here for the next couple of minutes, just bear with me. You might not agree with everything that I'm saying, and that's totally fine. That's why there is a comment section, and that's why if you enjoy this type of videos, you can always hit the thumbs up button and subscribe if you have not. And if you're listening on Spotify, well, just follow along. Now, first of all, I just want to touch on what happened at the start of the season. To me, it made absolutely no sense to sack a coach, a manager like Thomas Tuchel, especially after you went on a shopping spree in the summer, and especially after Thomas Tuchel stayed with Chelsea when times were extremely difficult. Now, of course, this is just speculations from my part, but to me, this felt like a power move. Now, I've read some rumors that something happened in the background with regards to Thomas Tuchel. Maybe he wanted more power. We don't know. Maybe in a couple of years something will come out, but as of now, to me personally as a fan, it made absolutely no sense. And that's not to say that I don't like Graham Potter. I think he did an exceptional job with Brighton, and I'm sure if we're giving him the time that he needs, he might actually do something quite good with Chelsea. I mean, they are buying players left, right, and center for insane amounts of money. So let's be honest, should be a success if he's given time. For example, Arsenal. We all laughed at Arsenal when Arteta came because, well, they were abysmal. But guess what? They gave him time, they gave him the players that he needs, and now they're sitting comfortably at the top of the Premier League. They've just beaten Tottenham Hotspur 2-0 at the 3-point lane. Well, actually now it's called something else, but hey, old habits. But this just shows you that if you give a good manager some time and you give him some good players, well, good things will happen. And I think Graham Potter is not a bad manager. And let's be honest, we've switched managers so many times. So at the end, maybe it's not the coach's fault. Maybe it's not the manager's fault that, well, the players don't perform. Maybe the players themselves aren't good enough to play for a club like Chelsea. And yes, you've probably heard the rumors, I've read them as well a couple of days ago, that policies might change at Chelsea, that maybe they will sack players instead of the manager. Well, I'd love to see that happen, but let's be honest, it probably won't. Now, circling back before I go into the player power tunnel, we're going to have a whole other episode talking about that, talking about the not evolution of the game, but to me, a degradation of the game, if that's even a word in English. If you're not hearing it from my accent, English is not my first language, but yeah, let's see what happens. Anyways, going back to the start of the season, we sacked Thomas Tuchel, we hired Graham Potter, we brought in Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang for 12 million euros from Barcelona. Very likely that we are going to see him leave again pretty soon. To me, it made absolutely no sense what happened. You bring a player that the manager wanted, that the manager knows, and then suddenly you just kick him out and we're left with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang on our bench most of the time. Doesn't make sense. Then you go on and spend around 80 million euros for Wesley Fofana. That was the worst move that could have ever happened. I don't understand who in their right mind went after a center back that hasn't proven anything in the Premier League. Yes, I know he's still young, but he's always injured. And some will say, yeah, but Reece James is always injured as well. Well, Reece James is, yes, injury prone, but at least Reece James, we know he's one of the best right back in the world. Can you say the same about Wesley Fofana? No, you cannot. No, you cannot justify that someone would have paid 80 million euros for him, especially not after we all laughed at Manchester United that has paid 80 million euros for Maguire. I mean, who was in charge of that transfer? I just don't understand what happened there. And it's not like we didn't have other options. We had options in our own club. We had other options that were way cheaper. Also, talking about another center back, Kalidou Koulibaly, we spent 38 million euros. We bought him. He's 31 years old, a beast at Napoli. This season, not really a beast at Chelsea, if we're being completely honest. But then again, we spent 38 million euros on, let's be honest, a left-footed center back, so he plays on the left. Wesley Fofana will play on the right. Now, if he's ever fit. Now, we also spent 65 million euros on Marc Cucurella, who can play left back, left wing back, left center back as well. Fine. Potter knows him from Brighton. He's an okay player. 65 million euros? Probably not. Then, now in January, what do? We splash another 38 million euros on Benoit Badiachil, a center back, a left-footed center back, 21 years old from Monaco. So, what's going on here? Where are all these center backs suddenly going to play? I just don't understand. I know Thiago Silva is old. I know Cesar Azpilicueta is old as well. But you now have two left-footed center backs. You have two left backs, good ones, Chilwell and Cucurella. Then you have Wesley Fofana, who's always injured. You have Trevor Chalobah, who in my opinion should have been given the spot, and then we would have saved 80 million euros that could have spent on, I don't know, a central midfielder, someone that could replace N'Golo Kante, someone that probably will cost us a lot of money. His name starts with Declan and ends with Rice. I don't know, could have used that money for something else. But okay, I'm not managing the club. I know the excuse, it's not your money, so who cares? Fine, okay. Then we go on and spend 18 million euros on Carney Chukwuemeka. Fine, 18 years old from Aston Villa. Could be something good. We also bought Raheem Sterling for 56 million euros. That's fine by me. Sadly, he's not really performing that well for us this season, and now he's obviously also injured like most of our players. And then let's skip all the rest. Denis Zakaria, fine. Took some time until he got some game time, and then obviously he got injured as well, but that's on loan, so let's not talk about that. Let's jump to the January transfer window. What did we do there? We talked about Benoit Badiachil, fine. Andre Santos, 12.5 million euros, 18 years old from Brazil. Let's see if we will ever see him in a blue shirt. 12 million euros for David Datro Fofana from Molde, 20 years old from Ivory Coast, center forward. Let's see if he's going to play for our club this year. João Felix, to be honest, I'm very, very excited after seeing the 56 minutes that we got from him in his first game. Of course, he got a red card, so now 3 weeks we won't be with that great player. It's again only on loan. Probably if he performs very, very well, I do hope that we're going to go after him at the end of this season. Don't forget, in the summer, Nkunku will join the club as well. And then our latest master move, Mykhailo Mudryk, 70 million euros plus approximately 30 million euros in add-ons, 22 years old from Shakhtar Donetsk. What happened there? I honestly have no clue. Well, I can only guess that we went after Enzo Fernandez. We didn't want to pay the release clause, which is completely fine because 120 million euros for such a player right now that had a great tournament, but that's about it. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. But then to go on and splash 100 million euros on Mykhailo Mudryk, who, let's be honest, 90% of us never heard this name before the transfer window opened, before Arsenal were linked with them. Let's be completely honest. We've all seen the clips, we've all went on Google and on YouTube and searched Mykhailo Mudryk highlights, and we watched him play. He plays very, very well. But does he play so well that we have to pay close to 100 million euros for him? Probably not. And then again, the question arises, what happens with all the rest of the players? Probably in the summer, we are going to sell quite a lot of players because we have now spent around 425 million euros and we have only gotten in 56 million euros. Don't forget, Lukaku is on loan at Inter, so let's try and sell him for a couple of shekels. So that was my rant on our transfer policy, let's say, and the start of the season and the sacking of Thomas Tuchel. But in the second half of this episode, I do want to talk about N'Golo Kante, Jorginho, and then our style of play and the current state of the club. So N'Golo Kante and Jorginho, that is probably the discussion in the next couple of months. Are they going to sign an extension or are we going to let them leave on a free just like we did with Rudiger, which was a complete disaster? I don't understand how you can let such players run out of their contract. If you look at other big teams like Manchester City, if a player suddenly enters the last 2 years of their deal, they are sitting with him at the table and discussing a new one. So there is no risk of running out of the contract and going on a free. Now, N'Golo Kante, me personally, I've always said the same thing. We should have sold him a year ago when he still was, let's say, 80% fit, because you can cash in and then you can buy someone fresher, someone a bit younger that isn't that injury prone. Now with Jorginho, although good player, I don't think he's the type of player that you want in front of your back four, because on the counter, that guy is extremely slow. So again, yes, in the summer, I would love it if we could sign either Declan Rice or Jude Bellingham. To be realistic, I think we'll go with Declan Rice. Jude Bellingham, unfortunately, will probably go to Real Madrid or maybe even Liverpool. But circling back to what I said before, in the summer, a lot will change with the club. It will be the first time that Graham Potter gets a full preseason with the players. The players will get to rest a long time because, well, we had the World Cup in the winter. So now in the summer, they'll get to rest a bit more. But we will need to survive the next 4 months. Right now, sitting in 10th place, well, it's really not the spot you want to be when you spend over 400 million euros. Of course, we have a lot of injuries. But then again, it's really, when you look at us play, you try and understand what is going on here, what's the plan. To be honest, sometimes I watch the games and it's like, there is no plan here. Our players clearly sometimes don't really care that much, because if you get paid so much money, I mean, how hard is it to put the ball in the net? But hey, I digress. This is again a conversation for another day. The current state of football around the world, the quality has come down throughout the years because currently the younger players are so spoiled that really nothing really goes on in their heads when it comes to performance because they don't really care much. They get paid anyways. But circling back to Chelsea. Chelsea, what comes next? I really hope that we stick with Graham Potter and we give him time. I know a lot of people in the comments will probably say, oh yeah, Graham Potter is not a great coach. He doesn't know anything. He was just a coach at Brighton, blah, blah, blah. Fine, but Brighton under him played very well. It's not like he doesn't know what he's doing. He knew what he did with Swansea, he knew what he did with Brighton, and he knew what he did with the club. I forgot their name back in the day. So what really needs to change is the mentality of the players in our club. If you're not fit to play for Chelsea FC, then you shouldn't play for Chelsea FC. Thank you very much. Goodbye. You can find yourself another club. But now, with the players that we have today, first of all, our squad is now very young. So of course, you need to give them some time. But just because they are young doesn't mean they can't perform. If you look at Arsenal, it's also a very young squad. But they know how to score goals. They know how to score goals. We have been a team in the last couple of years, actually, where even though we had the ball a lot, I don't know why, but we forgot how to shoot and we forgot how to score goals. And when you look at the names on our team sheet, when you look at the people on our bench or on the field itself, it's not like those people didn't know how to play football before. I mean, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang scores goals for fun. Raheem Sterling scored goals for fun. Pulisic, Felix, Ziyech, Havertz, Mount, maybe not that much anymore, but they know how to score goals. They know how to play football. So something clearly has to change in their heads for things to work out for Chelsea, because right now we just won against Crystal Palace 1-0. But let's be honest, 1-0 for a club like Chelsea with the players that we have, it's just not good enough. And so to finish off this first episode, I know I'm close to 20 minutes in, but this is a nice little introduction to what you might get on this podcast and on this channel. Again, you might not agree with everything I say. Some of you might agree with everything, but some of you might not, and that's completely fine. That's what this platform is all about. You can discuss it in the comment section below. Just keep it civil, because yes, some words will be blocked, some comments will be blocked as well. Just want to keep it civil here. But overall, Chelsea right now, what they don't have to do is to sack Potter, because then you're just starting all over again and all the so-called progress goes into the garbage. You just spent a tremendous amount of money on new players. Just give the manager time. Stop letting the player power consume this club. Give the manager some time and let's see how that works out. Of course, for the fans right now, it's not a fun period, but let's see how that plays out. Let's finish this season strong. Let's try. And then during preseason, let's work on next one and let's see what happens. Maybe we might have an Arsenal scenario. Who knows? Anyways, if you enjoy this type of videos, leave it a thumbs up, subscribe if you have not, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.